We're going to come back to the slides later on. Okay, so first of all, what you can see on the screen here is the Abydos Designer user interface, and I'm now going to take on the role of a designer. I've been asked by the business to provide a software upgrade process. So at the moment I can see on the left-hand side I've got a bunch of processes that are currently stored in the tree. I'm going to go through those in a second, and we also have in the middle of the diagram a palette which we're going to use for building the process, and on the right-hand side is basically the design pane that we use for the process build area. So we're going to actually use that in a moment. Now, before we get into building our software upgrade process, we do have another process here which we just need to explain briefly. It's called hardware or software, and this process is the top-level process which we use to integrate with the service request definition. So we have a service request definition we've created for hardware or software, and we're going to use that to link to a process here which we're going to use to drive the end-to-end process. So you can see within this we have a number of decision steps. We've got the first step, which is to grab the instance ID for the service request, read the user's selection, which is going to be either hardware or software, and then we go either to the right-hand side, which results in the creation of a change request, or we go to the left, which results in the creation of a work order. So we're going to go through initially the creation of the software work order, and we need a process for that. When we come on to the change request, we have a separate process called the new server process, which we'll come on to a bit later on. I'll show you that as well. And this is the process which, as you can see here, is attached to the change request in ITSM7, and this is the one that's going to be launched when we create the change request. So just to summarize, we have the hardware or software at the top level creating either a change request using the new server process or the work order, which is going to be using the new software upgrade process which we're going to create right now. Okay, so just bear with me. We're going to just set this process up, and we're going to just work from the design tool to create a new process from scratch. So the first thing we do is we click on the new process icon, and it prompts me to enter the details for the new process. Okay, so I'm going to call it software upgrade, and it's going to be service request management type. So that's pretty much all I need to create the process, and right away it then takes me into the design area. And I can use the palette in the middle to drag and drop new tasks onto the process to create them. So it prompts me for the task name, which I'm going to enter here. First task is called type of software required, and for this particular step I want the user to enter some data, and so I want to put a field name on here, which I'm going to call software type, and that also needs a menu, and I can choose any of the menus off my Remedy server. I've got one already created here called software types. Just going to attach that to the field, and yeah, I want this to be initially assigned when it goes into Remedy, so that'll just store that flag for me. So that's my first step created. Okay, and now we're going to create the next task in the process, which is to check whether this software is covered by a support contract or not. So this is an example of a decision step which we can easily create. And then we can use just drag and drop the mouse between the two connect points to create a dependency between those two steps, as you can see there. Okay, I'm now going to create an approval step, so we just need to seek approval to purchase this upgrade, depending on the response from the previous step. Okay, and then if this one is already within a support contract, we're just going to allow the software upgrade to be obtained from the vendor. It's pretty straightforward. Again, we can just use the drag and drop to connect the two tasks using the dependency line. And we can enter any conditional outcome value we want to, so we can just have in here either yes or no, or any other text that you may want to create. So I'm going to make this one a yes. Okay, so far so good, and then we're just going to add in a couple more tasks at the bottom here just to show what happens whether the whether this request is approved or rejected. So one of the things we can do, as you'll notice here, is we can also add actions on to any one of these steps just by dragging and dropping from the palette. In this particular example here, we're going to add an email action. We've got all the standard email fields that you'd expect to see using either a defined address or an address we've already provided somewhere else. We can just link that in, put in the subject we want to use, and then finally the text for that particular email. And that allows me to then attach that to that step. So what happens is you'll see this when we come to run in Remedy, when we get to that particular step, it'll launch the email and send that off to the recipient. Now, if this particular request is rejected, then we want to notify the requester, so we'll just create another task for that. As you can see, very, very simple, just drag and drop it onto the diagram. And finally, if it's approved, then we want to be able to just go off and complete the software installation, so I'm just going to put that in there. And finally, we just need to link these tasks together. And in a moment, we're going to see, once we get this process released, exactly how this runs within the Remedy application. So let's get that finished off. So it's going to be, this is the rejected path and the approved path. Okay, and then finally we're going to add a notification action to notify the requester. Again, we can just put in the notified text here. And the same as the email, when we get to this particular step, if it comes down this path, it'll then go off and notify the specified recipient of that particular outcome. As you can see, we've got a whole bunch of other actions we could have used for calling filter guides or running new processes and updating requests. But that's all we need for now. So we're just going to update this process. And let's now save that with a new version. And the next step is to actually release this process to the live environment. So it's currently in design, which is the status you get when you first create the processes. We're now going to promote this to the test state, which we can use for testing. Also, you can use the processes input to your test plans. And then when we're ready, we can then just promote the process to the live state. And what that does is then puts it into live and makes it available for selection from within Remedy. So if we just look at the service request management process, you can see we have a process there called software upgrade. Okay. Right, so that's my first new process created, and that's all ready to go. And just to complete the picture now, we need to jump into the Remedy user tool and just configure the link between the process and a work order that we're going to use it for. So let me switch over to Remedy. I'm now taking on the role of the Remedy administrator, and I'm just going to show you how we can map this process in.